Hi, amigas.
Hi.
I have one of my good friends on the pod joining this week. This is actually my water enthusiast friend. I created a war talking about filtered water and unfiltered water.
Seriously?
Yes, a bunch of people were like, that's disgusting. And a ton of people were like, I drink unfiltered water and it's fine. So this episode's going to be about water. I'm just kidding. Imagine.
All about water and my journey.
Chantal's going to educate us on her experience
Oh
with
my
water.
gosh.
No, but I'm so glad you're joining me because you are like someone who is really good at research and you know a lot about things and I am not.
Like water.
So you are my smart friend. But I also just love getting to talk about like pop culture with you, movies. I feel like we have so many different types of interests. And one of them being is that we are married to the cutest little white boys and we are both Latinas.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like most of our conversations are like, it's a Latino thing, like, you know. So I thought it would be, I mean, we both kind of, you threw out the topics and we were both like, oh, that would be fun to talk about like POV, you're married to a gringo.
Yeah, like what the heck is that like? Because
what is the reality
how
of
did we
that?
get here? Where do we go?
But it's fun because like you and then a few other friends like Sarai and stuff are like my closest friends and you guys are Latinas, so it's like really special.
Yeah.
Like the Latina sisterhood is just like it's close. It's
like
strong.
once you get it and you're like on the same page, it's so
just
strong.
It's
I
so
love it.
strong. I love it. So, do you want to give like a quick little intro about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, and also like fun fact, Val and I have been in each other's lives since we were like 10 or something.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Our sisters were in a band together at one point, and we didn't know this.
We didn't know until you guys moved down to Orange County in 2021.
It's insane. So we've been in the same circles.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you like grew up with my stepdad and my ex-boyfriend who's my uncle now.
Yeah.
I feel like I always have to
I knew them, and then when I pieced that together, I was like, "What?" But anyway,
and then our dads knew each other. It's just a small world.
Yeah,
so,
small world.
Yeah.
I.e. the hood.
I know.
But yeah, I'm Shantal. I am married, and I have 2 dogs, 2 doodles. One's a Labradoodle, golden doodle. We live in Costa Mesa, and I don't know. I have a lot of hobbies. I'm usually I'm a marketer. But yeah, I have a lot of hobbies, which really just means that I like am out and about all the time. Val knows, like I'm always running or walking or hiking or working out. I love being outside. I do like yoga and meditation, and yes, I'm like a research geek. Like literally we'll get down a rabbit hole of like, and it's not just things like water. Like I'm really obsessed with like health and wellness right now, and I think it's because I've gone through like a specific health journey that I've had to take on my own and kind of take into my own hands, and so I've just done a lot of research. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and that kind of just got me into what else can I learn. And so I guess I'm just like always hungry to learn, which is like something that I kept from when I was little. But if you know me, you know that I'm like geeking out about something or some product, or talking to you about my health, or like talking about mental wellness. And just personalities and relationships. Or I'm working out. So
I love that. I love it so much. Do you want to give like a quick story, as this wasn't in the outline, so I'm putting you on the spot, but as to like what inspired like your research and like your knowledge on like health, like talking about your health issues and such?
Yeah, good question. So I think right before the pandemic, I kind of hit a wall with like my health in general. I've always had a very sensitive stomach since I was little, and then during college went gluten-free because I realized I had an intolerance. So I had just like foggy brain. I had like my muscles that used to like spasm, and like I was always fatigued, and like I don't know, like there was something that was off. So I went gluten-free, and that helped a ton. But then right before the pandemic, I got really sick again, and I kind of just, I had gone to different doctors and they had told me different things. And so I was just really frustrated by the lack of like knowledge that I personally had. Like I couldn't advocate for myself because I didn't know the language. I'm not a doctor. So obviously I was just like, well, what is it that I like need to do to get better? And so I'm definitely like, I think because my mom is like this, but since I was little, like I'm not like a pill person. So like even like I'll have the worst headache and like Nick, my husband, he's like quick to be like, take 5 Tylenol.
That's
and I'm
Zach.
like, no, I'm like, I'm going to sleep it off. I'm going to like,
yeah,
you know, like, and he's just like, why don't you just take it? Like, if your head hurts, take it. And I'm like, no. So anyways, I don't like going down the like pill, antibiotics. I also saw like my dad go through all that. And I was just like, that's not the route I want to take. So then obviously I mean, we have Google, but we also have like Instagram and TikTok now. But I started just going down into like, okay, like what doctors can I like listen to that have like the values that I hold, which is a lot of like integrative medicine, preventative care versus wait till there's an emergency to do something. Yeah. So that kind of started. And then obviously COVID hit and I had nothing to do because what did we have to do? So then I just listened to like a bunch of podcasts and was just, like learning a ton about like, obviously like how to eat, the way that you go about eating, or like intermittent fasting was a big thing, or even just like hormonal health and like things that I didn't realize were a huge part of being a woman. Like hormones just affect you every single day in a really crazy way. And none of us are talking about it. Like,
I know. There's like they're barely starting research on like we're barely finding out that women's like hormonal cycle is not meant for like a 9 to 5 that like men have, you know. And I'm like, and that women need more sleep than men. So I'm like, we're barely like learning that right now. Like what?
And the fact that like now that I have more awareness, and obviously no like cycle period wise, but just in general, just more awareness, it's like even my husband, like Nick, will be like, you're like a different person. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to be like less stressful or less reactive. And a lot of that has to do with our cycle, like not just like PMS, but also just like what hormones are at play that are causing me to be reactive or, you know, whatever. And so I think if you can get that in good balance, then you could just be a better person. And you should want to be a better person, right? So that's kind of, to answer your story or your question, that's kind of like long story short is I just had to take I guess initiative. Let's not say control. Initiative of my health. And so I decided to go into this like deep dive and use the resources that are available to us and to any other doctors too. And so I was like, okay, so that's kind of what's brought me into being able to speak the language a little bit better. Which is cool. I just like it. It's fun.
I feel like we could do a whole separate podcast episode on like women's health and cycles, which has been on my list. I want to do an episode like that. So I'm going to,
like I just want to pull out a calendar and be like, okay, guys, this is how it all works. This is what you should be eating. Oh my gosh, this is like food has serotonin, like all those things. It's like,
food has so much to do with it. I recently, well, like maybe like the past year and a half, started doing like cycle eating and like doing like, okay, because I listened to like a period podcast. This episode's all about periods. So I listened to a podcast episode I think like 2 years ago that just completely blew my mind. And it was literally with like a period specialist. And she was talking about how she doesn't, like the week of period, she purposely like doesn't schedule work around that time. And obviously things come up. Like we don't all have the privilege to just like take off work for a week. Like there's still things we need to show up for and do. And so she was making that known. Like I just try not to do as much. I'm not super social. Like I know I need to hibernate at home. And what's crazy about that is like, okay, so this week I'm on my period. Sorry. Actually, sorry, not sorry. There's a man in the room, and yes, I'm on my period. So
way of life.
But yesterday morning, like it has been the craziest week, which I'll debrief with you everything that's been going on because I haven't like actually talked to you. But
I saw you 2 days ago.
But this happened like literally after I saw you.
Oh my god.
But just a lot of like work stress and stuff. But yesterday morning, I woke up at 4:30 to go work out at 5:30. And I woke up with a pounding headache. Literally, it felt like my brain was outside of like my skull just pounding. And it was hurting so bad that I was crying and I was delirious and super tired. Oh, no. And I started having a panic attack. Like I started like my breathing was out of control. I felt like I didn't have any type of control in that moment. And it was so scary. And Zach, like, because he was going to go to the gym with me and he was like, no, you're staying home. Like you need to like chill. And I was like, okay. And I just kept like thinking like, it's literally my body telling me to slow down. Like I've done way too much this week. And so anyways, where was I going with that? Yeah. So that girl in the podcast episode was saying she tries not to schedule. And I was like, dang it. Normally I'm really good about that. But this week, like I I have stuff to do.
Next time on Hey Amigas, we are going to go into the mysteries of your cycle.
I find it so fascinating. Like
it's crazy.
That's one of the
really
things I just want to talk about with like every woman is like, let's just sit and talk about our feelings and our periods because
like when you're going to be your most productive, when you need to sleep extra hours, when you need more water, like when you shouldn't be eating sugar versus when you can eat sugar.
Right.
Like,
oh my gosh.
It's not this restrictive thing of like no caffeine or yes caffeine. Like we've talked about it. Like you know that around your period, maybe you shouldn't be taking like 3 cups of coffee a day or whatever, or just like minimize it to like a matcha, whatever. But
it's crazy.
We can definitely go into that.
It's so fascinating to me.
My nerd brain will turn on for sure.
Yes, educate us all, please. Okay, well, with that, we can get into our conversation about not periods and about our culture. Yeah. So it's funny because most of the Latinos that I meet are Mexican, just because we live in California and that's predominantly what's around. But you, where are you from?
Vengo del Ecuador. Yay! Nací en Quito. So I'm from Ecuador. I can't say Ecuador. Like people will like say it and I'm like, oh, Ecuador. And they're like, oh yeah. Like that. Or they always think I'm from El Salvador. So they're like, oh, you're from El Salvador. And I'm like, no. Ecuador. It's just funny. But one of the countries with an E. So I came to the States when I was about like 6 or 7 years old, spoke fluent Spanish, had a little bit of English, like just broken things like bathroom and things like that. But yeah, my family relocated to Long Beach, so we're immigrants. And there's like a whole crazy story to why but the long story short was that we were going to be here for a year to learn English. That was like what my dad would tell us.
I didn't realize
as far as that's what he would tell us, like un año para que aprendan el inglés and blah blah blah. And then a year turned into a lifetime. But no, like a year turned into I guess I don't know, I was so small that at that point it's not that I was asking all the time. Like I'm sure maybe my mom or sister were like, when do we go back? But we moved to Long Beach and we're hopping around Orange County, LA County for a while. I remember I started school in Anaheim. I believe there was an elementary school that I started there. And I did not know a lick of English. Like I remember I still have pictures of the first day of school because I don't know if my dad thought it was funny, but it's like pictures of me with like blood shot, like red eyes, because I was so freaked out. I was like, what do I do?
Yeah, that's crazy. That is intense.
And maybe, but I do remember it was, I think I was gonna like middle of 2nd or 3rd grade, or like beginning of 3rd grade maybe, but I just remember like not knowing much. I couldn't communicate with people during recess. So I remember I would sit on top of the slide and wait, like just like look around and like kind of like people watch, just to be like, who will talk to me? Because no one could really. So then I'd like hang out up there until someone wanted to go down the slide, and then I would either like hang from the slide or just like
that's so what was the demographic in Anaheim at the time?
Well, what's funny is I remember it being predominantly Asian, so there were a lot of Asian people there. I don't even remember making friends that year. I only remember making friends like my 3rd grade, and I think because I graduated from ESL, which everybody that
ESL,
I graduated in 4th grade. I remember that. But in 3rd grade was when I made like my first American friend, because beyond that it was like I couldn't communicate, so there was like no way to do it. But I one time got in trouble because they had us like write out like, okay, say like a paragraph about you and like read it to the class. And so I was like, hi, my name is Shantal.
Aww.
I live in Long Beach.
Long Beach.
Instead of Long Beach. And I remember everybody started laughing at me, and I like had no idea what was going on, and I'm just like mortified. And then I see the teacher coming toward me. Stop. And I'm just like, they send me to the principal's office.
You and literally don't know English at that point,
instead of beach, I said the B word.
Oh,
and I didn't know.
It's so
funny
sad.
now, but I remember like really struggling with school the first year, because like I could not tell you what we learned. I think what I learned the first 2 years of like school here, because like I learned English. That was like my main focus. But or watching TV to like catch up. But yeah, so we got here,
So
and then
crazy.
eventually we moved to the IE. So my family lives in like the Redlands area, and we were there ever since.
That's so, I literally, it's so funny because every like Latino or Latina that I talk to just has such a different experience in different ways that they've like, I don't know, different like experiences that have made it hard as like whether you're an immigrant or like Latino, because I mean I was born here, but and you know this, I'm just recapping for those who don't know, but we would obviously go to South America and Mexico like every year. We'd go for months at a time. My parents in the household were very, very Latino, and it was always confusing. And we've talked about this, like having that and then turning it off and going into like American culture. Yeah. And then like learning how to switch or like kind of chameleon, like, okay, I'm like this now. Okay, now I'm this way. And it's like, as an adult, I think about that a lot, and I think about how that has made me who I am today. Yeah. Because I feel like I am someone who's very adaptable socially, like with different types of people. I'm like, okay, I can kind of like chameleon into that. And I think that's like my 3. We're talking about the Enneagram again this week. Me and Keith were talking about the Enneagram, and I was having a crisis with that. But
our friends are obsessed.
I know, that's all we talk about. It's so annoying. But yeah, so I've just like, I think because of those experiences, it's that filter's so hard, like knowing like when to turn it on, when to turn it off. And I feel like it's like crazy bringing that into a marriage, like when you're married to someone who doesn't get it, you know, and it's okay. There's like beauty in marrying someone from a different culture, but there also is a lot of like hardships with that. Yeah. What has been like, let's talk about like the bad first, and then we'll like we'll talk about the good. But what are some of like the hardest parts do you see like being married to someone with a different culture than you?
Yeah. Well, and I want to like back up real quick and just speak into like the, I guess, the dynamic of like switching it on and off, because I feel like even to this day, when I was younger, it was really hard to be like part of my family, not in the sense where like they're just a bad family, they're a great family, but it was hard to be part of that and be like fully Ecuatoriana, like and be like that when I was living here, but then go to school and try to be like, not that I was trying to be American, but trying to fit in with adapt to like people. It was like I stuck out at school, but I also felt like I stuck out at home. That could also be like an Enneagram 4 thing. That's my number in case you're wondering. But it was like, okay, I don't really fit in at home, I don't really fit in at school. I'm not Ecuadorian enough from like my family or my cousins. Like they'd make fun of me and be like, no puede hablar or whatever. Or like in you know, like at school it was like, oh, your family's like this. Like we just stuck out. So that has been like interesting just even getting older. It's like, okay, how do I carry myself as a Latina? But also like I have a different background from some of the Latinas that either like came here when they were much older or they still are, you know, in other countries. Like, but yeah, to circle back around with like the differences, it's just very interesting because I think that like I didn't venture out of like the Latino community. And like obviously like when I lived in like the IE, there were a lot of like Latinos, but then there were also just Americans and Latino Americans or whatever. And so like, but my first experience with like having a lot of friends or like being in that kind of community was like getting married. It was just kind of like, okay, like what do I expect, I guess, out of, I don't know, I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. But I don't know, like there's been a lot of differences. I would definitely say I think the way that we deal with conflict is very, very different. My family is like, and this might be just like a personality of my family, but I feel like a lot of Latinos are just like, everything's out there and everybody's getting yelled at or called out or being like,
people are crying.
Yeah, like, no seas estúpida and blah, blah, and like, yeah, no seas sangrona, Shantal, or like, I don't know, pórtate bien, no seas así, like just very, you know what I mean? And my husband, not so much. Yeah. For him, like dealing with conflict, it's either very, very carefully and calculated and calm and like, you know, I feel like, I don't know if you've experienced this where it's like, okay, I can't be attacking, but I also have to be loving and I have to be affirming and like very like, And I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I think that could be a great thing too, but that it also toggles between the line of being passive of like, you're not actually talking about the conflict.
Yeah.
So you have like two drastic, like opposites.
Yes.
Where like I came from a household where it was like, no, boom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and we dealt with it. And then usually like if it really hurt, like we'd apologize or we'd be forced to apologize by our parents. But we were always just like, name calling and whatever. And so that's kind of the dynamic that I got used to.
Yeah.
Versus for him, it's either not brought up or it's said in like a very like, oh, you know. So that was really hard for us at first because we were obviously getting into conflict because any married couple does. And so we were just like, and I would be quick to be like, oh, Nick, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, should be a little bit kinder. And I'm like, why would I be kind? I've told you this 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, and I get, like, I see like my mom and like my dad and myself, and I'm like, oh, you know. So we've had to learn how to like balance that because I think there is, you know, like there's room for us to be like kind of like curt and like don't do that and like you know like make a point, but then there's also room for us to like have a discussion about it or like. But actually say something, not just be like, oh, like, Nick, that bugged me, but it's okay. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no, like, that bugged me, and I don't appreciate you doing it again. Right. Kind of thing. Yeah. So that's been, like, a big difference is how we handle conflict, I think. I mean, holidays, too. Like, I don't know if you experienced this. Obviously with Latinos, like Navidad, it's like chaotic and like everybody's singing and dancing and like I mean you saw like just recently like my family was like karaokeing and everybody was involved and it was like oh my gosh and like I don't know, we're always like cracking jokes at each other and just like doing things like that and like nothing is set up nicely, like everything is just like around chaos. And like get your food and like si no comes ya like ni modo kind of thing like just everything's a little bit chaotic and usually there's like multiple people or family that you've never even met that shows up. It's like you know,
literally like, Zach every time we have like a family gathering he's always like I was like oh this is like a primo of mine, this is a Theo, and he's literally like who is it, like we've been married for 10 years, who is this?
Yes, Nick just met like and I met 2 of my new family, like you know it's just kind of this thing of like someone's always having a kid or they're in another country and all of a sudden they're you know visiting. So anyways, but so yeah, it's like pretty chaotic. I think I've gotten used to that being entertaining. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to chill that at home, but I kind of also crave just like, oh, like who's gonna be there and you get all dressed up to sit in the sala, like that's just it is what it is.
Getting dressed up to sit in the sala.
Side note, one of the first times Nick went to like a family gathering, homie was in like board shorts and like I think it was maybe even cargo shorts, I kid you not, and like a t-shirt. And I was like, you're not wearing that.
The looks he got from the Theas.
No, that's not, he didn't even make it out the door. I was like, you're not wearing that. And he's like, why? Because it was like a summer get together, so he's like, it's hot, it's like 95 degrees, and I'm like, go put on a button-up shirt, like a polo or something, and some like jeans, like nice jeans, and he's like, Shantal, I'm not wearing that, and I'm like, bro, you do not understand, like you're not gonna show up like this. Sure enough, he was like, thank you, because like,
everyone's just dressed up,
everybody's dressed up, and it's like people are getting into the pool too. So it's just funny because like, you know. So the difference there is like his family, I think it's a little bit more like put together and they have like, you know, like charcuterie boards and like,
structured time for things.
And like water things and like blah, 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 and activities. And like, that's fun too. It's just not what I was used to or it's kind of one of those things where you like walk in and everybody has their own little activity that they're doing. So then I'm like, do I pick to help with the dishes? Do I pick to go talk to my niece? Do I pick like what do I pick? And everything's like very you know, which I've gotten better used to, and it's kind of nice to have like a little bit of calm, like there is, you know, a sense of like I'm walking into not a bunch of people and who brought who and
because I could see how that is overwhelming too, but like I definitely I agree with you on all this, and like it's so funny that you're talking about this because literally like Zach, his biggest thing is like Latino families don't have structure, routine, or like boundaries like for their kids. And we like laugh that it's like, oh, you see like you're Latino when there's a random baby passed out on like 2 chairs with a blanket con una cobija.
Yeah, like I've been that baby in la iglesia, like just like full on asleep. They're having a vigilia till 2 a.m.
I love talking about vigilias. But it's so funny because like when we were in Mexico recently, like you would just see like parents out with kids and it's like 10 p.m. and there's loud music or they're bringing a baby to a bar, like all these things. And I'm like, even though I probably wouldn't do that like with my kids because I do love having structure with them. Yeah. I'm also like, dang, like that's so cool. I could appreciate like the spontaneity. Is that a word?
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity.
We just made that up.
ESL.
Right? No, I was gonna say I make up so many words.
But like it's cool to be like spontaneous and carefree. Like I feel like Latinos are very carefree in that sense. Like, let's just go, let's just vibe with it. And like, that's how my dad is. Yeah. My mom is like that. Zach knows that when we see my family, there's no end time. If there's a party, there's no end time. Even on my own invitations that I sent to people for like my parties, there's no end time. I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm Latina. I'm not putting an end time. We're going to party until we're tired. And like, so it's funny because for him, his parents, his family is like, he grew up seeing his aunt and uncle like once a year, his grandparents once a year, where I'm like, my grandma basically raised me for like the first like half of my life. Yeah. And then they have very like structured slots. I'm like, okay, at like 6 p.m. we're going to eat dinner and 7 p.m. we're going to leave, like just very like, you know, leave. And I'm like, no, the party starts at like 10 p.m. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So it's really funny to see. He knows by now finally that like when we go and see my family, we don't know when we're coming home. And it's just, that's part of the deal. Yeah. That's what you get into when you're married to a Latina.
I will say that like my first, and I don't know if this is because I'm Latina and my husband's family is not, but like my first experience of like type A personalities and type A, like, and I appreciate a lot of that because I do like structure, like you said, and I've kind of like learned that like my anxiety and all that, my well-being is better when there's structure to a degree. But my first like encounter with type A-ness was like his family, and I was just like, people like this exist, like it's not just in the movies, like you know, like I think I just obviously I think Latino too, but like my family just were a bunch of just like extroverts / like I don't know, creatives. Like my family's full of creatives, and I feel like that doesn't really allow for structure, like to a degree. So I just feel like his family, it's like that difference of like everything's like planned out and this is the time you'll get there. There obviously like there is still that thing where like some people are late, whatever, but like it's not it's very different. I told Nick he's not allowed to ask me what the plan is anymore if it deals with my family, because he's like, he'd be like, so what are we doing? I'm like, I don't know.
Don't worry about it. I literally
have you talked to your mom?
The same.
No, I will ask her like 30 minutes before we leave. But where are we meeting? The mall?
The mall. Latinos at the mall.
We love the mall. El Spectrum.
Shout out to Cerritos Mall, Victoria Gardens.
Dude, now I want a Mrs. Fields cookie so bad.
I know. We should hang at the mall more often with like Sarai, just to like make it feel like our childhood again.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's so funny. I know. It's really crazy. And there's like beautiful things to take from like each culture. Yeah. But I've definitely I think Zach being married to a Latina has helped him be more carefree with time because he's an Enneagram 8, so he's a challenger. He's pretty like type A for someone who has ADD, but he likes to know the plan. It like gives him control and security, and so he's always like, well, what's the plan? What time are we leaving? Blah blah blah. Yeah. And gets stressed if like things aren't going to plan, and that's 100% his mom too. Like his mom is like, she blows up if she's like 10 minutes past like her time slot for whatever it is we're supposed to be doing. And so I feel like him being married to a Latina has helped him a lot just be like carefree, like it's fine, like there's no concept of time. He knows that when I go to a coffee shop date with a friend, I'm like, I don't know when I'm coming, could be in 5 hours.
Nick literally is like, so I'll see you in 4 hours, and I'm like, yeah, probably. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, me
gusta hablar.
But if you go to like places like Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, you see that people, like, I find that so beautiful to a degree where there's no sense of time. Like people are just present in the moment. They're not getting wrapped up with like, okay, I need to go do this at this time or this and that. Like you just literally are there fully present. And I think community is such a beautiful part of our culture too. It's just like we love having community and everything. And I think that's why like for like birthdays and stuff, I'm like, I want to go all out. Like I want all my friends to be there. Like I want it to just feel like one big family, one big party. And so it's just really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think, so we said negatives and then positives
too,
positives, right? Yeah. I don't know. I think what's like beautiful of us like coming together as like Latino and American, but like I think the perspective that we were able to give each other. I mean, he grew up born and raised in the same city. I did not. I moved around a lot, obviously, before we like landed in the IE or in Redlands. But even then, like I knew a lot about the world because of the fact that I was not, like, I was an immigrant. So I got to learn a lot about the world and cultures and things like that. And that always intrigued me versus for him, it was something that was still kind of new. Like when he had met me, like had never experienced just like family parties that were Latino, like things like that. But even then, just like the amount of travel that we've done together as a couple has really brought us both like perspective on like what truly matters, like just like values that we want to instill within our small family. And then if we have kids one day, like things that we really want our kids to know, just because when he processes his childhood, like he's always like, you know, like I'm grateful for my family and my parents, but I do feel like I have a really narrow-minded like mindset and view of things versus like now that I've been married and I've been able to like grow up and see things on my own, like I see so much of the world because we've been able to have that opportunity together.
Right.
And vice versa. Me too. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know. In other countries, like some people don't even own cars. They ride the bus or taxi or they have a Vespa, you know, or they walk. Yeah, they walk everywhere. Or in other countries, like some people might not ever own a home. And, you know, like for him, that was something that was instilled in him of like, you know, 5-bedroom house with a white picket fence. And I was like, own this, own that. Like you need to have property. And I'm like,
capitalism.
Exactly. And I'm like, I just want to be able to pay my rent and like hang out with my friends and like enjoy life, like pura vida status. Like I just want to like good food, good family, good friends kind of thing. And so we've been able to kind of give each other like perspective and just, that's been one of the positives of like, I've been able to show him a little bit of my world, him a little bit of his, and we've been able to like over the years, we've been married 6 years now. So like over the years, be able to actually like compromise and come to like a middle ground of like, okay, like what values do we want to take from both cultures, from both like upbringings, and just start to instill those in our family.
And that is what's beautiful about marrying someone who grew up in a different culture, is that like you get to basically take what you love and appreciate about each other's or your own culture and then bring it together, because there's also a lot of things, which I'm sure you can agree, from like Latino culture that I'm like, I don't want to bring this into my family or my marriage. Like with the whole like be strong and don't cry, like no llores, or like did your parents ever make fun of you, like if you felt like you were gonna cry, like quiere llorar, quiere llorar? My dad would say that to me all the time, and I would like fight back my tears, like and now I'm like crying every day, and I'm like, I love it. And I'm like, but like essentially like
sentida, and I'm like, oh my god.
Or like how nicknames, I don't know if this is more of a Mexican thing, but like how nicknames are your biggest insecurity. So
like gorda?
Yeah.
Nick was like, did your mom just call your sister gorda? And I'm like, yeah, but she means that like endearing. She's like,
he's like, is it?
He's like, that's so mean. And I'm like, no, it's like gordo, gorda, flaca.
Yeah. But like the
I was
comments,
called lombriz for the longest time because I was so skinny.
Wait, tell them what lombriz.
Didn't we look it up? Because I thought it was like a gusano, like a type
like
of gusano.
Like a word,
But isn't it like a...
I forgot what it
I had a primo that called me lombriz for the longest time. And I thought it was because I was like skinny and small.
Lombriz. Hold on, we're going to look at
this. It turns out, isn't it like a...
it's a worm, yeah.
Okay, a worm. But like... I thought it was like a cute little worm. I don't know. It's like this ugly looking worm anyways. Soy una lombriz.
My dad would call me flaca or esqueleto.
Esqueleto?
Yeah,
Oh
something
my
like
gosh.
But so that's something that we probably don't want to bring into our families. Like your nickname is like your insecurity or based off like what you look like physically.
Like I'm still gonna make fun of my kids. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah. You have to like clown on them a little bit, but
someone's got to toughen them up.
So that's like, those are things where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like bring this in, and then there's like beauty to take from both, and then stuff to leave from both. But do you feel like, I'm gonna like pivot a little bit, do you feel like knowing about like the Enneagram or understanding your Nick's numbers, like do you feel like that's helped your marriage a lot because you already have like the cultural dynamic? So like with the Enneagram, how has that helped you guys?
Oh my gosh, so much. I mean, thankfully the Enneagram was brought into our lives like right as we were getting very serious about getting engaged. So it was, I mean, take out the Enneagram, like we already were opposites in general, like obviously upbringing opposites, you know what I mean? Our personalities, like if you know us and friends that know us, like we're opposites. Like now we complement each other because we've gotten into that good groove. But before it was like
so different.
You can just tell the stark differences of like he's like you know, so to put it in Enneagram terms, I'm an Enneagram 4, my husband's an Enneagram 7. I'm a Virgo, he's a Gemini, so he's just like very extroverted. If we were to put ourselves into dogs, I would be the poodle, he would be a
100%
golden retriever. Like he's 100%. Just like hey, and like, you know, like has a bunch of interests and hobbies and they're always fun. Like he talks to you about movies and cars and shoes and things like
Film,
that. I'm more of the like, but how did that make you feel? And like introspective, and I'm like watching people and I'm a little bit calculated, but only because I want to like fit the mold, but like not because I want to fit in, but because I want to like stand out. It's like this weird dynamic. But anyways, he's very opposite of me in a lot of ways, aside from the cultural family differences stuff. And so when we were first getting engaged, like that was something that at the time the church we were attending was going through a study, a biblical study, and brought the Enneagram into it. And so we both learned about our numbers, and that's really where for me, like, you know, separately, we both were like, what does this mean? Like, what does this mean for us to look at these numbers and look at the weaknesses of these numbers and like accept that, like take them on and like work on perfecting them. And it just helped us a lot when it came to like how I communicate versus how he communicates. The conflict side too, like we already talked about, like how he deals with conflict versus how I would deal with conflict. What makes us react, what makes us tick, like it's completely different from both sides. What does, because he's like, when it comes to like emotion, he has one and it's happy. When it comes to emotion, for me it's multiple, but it's also like rooted in anger, which I didn't realize prior to the Enneagram. Like I would have never said that I was like an angry person, and to this day I don't say I'm an angry person. But a lot of my reaction to things, or a lot of like how I feel, does kind of come from like a root of anger in general. So seeing those, like obviously knowing more about the numbers and seeing like the different personality traits and like how, like, I don't know, seeing that on paper for me, like seeing the Enneagram 7 and going like, okay, he's an enthusiast. He's probably going to choose fun over chores. I'm, you know, like I'm an individualist. I like my space a particular way. So I can't have fun until I've cleaned up. You know what I mean? Gosh, for him, Saturday morning, he's like, what we doing? And I'm like, when we were first married, I was like, I don't know. And I would like sacrifice like the fact that I knew I wanted to stay home and like tidy up and get my chores done before I go and hang out. You know, I would just go out with him, but the whole day I would be super uptight and like couldn't enjoy myself. Like I couldn't be present. And then I'm not. And he's like, why are you upset with me? And I'm like, I don't know. And so seeing the Enneagram and seeing kind of just like how those personality traits are at play, like really helped us both. And like, I think it's always best in relationships in general if you try to be a couple steps ahead of the other person. Like I think if you put that thought and effort into like, okay, like my wife likes this and maybe I'll beat her to it, and vice versa, then I think you're always kind of like outwinning each other, and that's like a good place to be. So we kind of both just took that and we're like, let's do that with the Enneagram. Like, if I can help you be more, you know, like, I know you need your own space to be creative or to like think and to like process. So I'm going to leave you alone in the mornings versus like for him waking up right away and being like, what are we doing? You know, like he's kind of learned that through trial and error. But I think the Enneagram has been a great indicator of like what the things that we can work on as a couple. So
yeah.
Felt like that was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, that was a perfect answer. Okay, you pointing out like on a Saturday morning, this is like random, but like wanting to like clean up and stuff before you have fun. I do that too, but especially at night. Like Zach will just like sit down and be like, just like relax and watch this show with me, and we'll do that later. And I'm like, you don't understand. I cannot relax until the dishes are clear. I've done my skincare nighttime routine. Clothes have been picked up from the floor. So it's like funny that you say that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel that especially at night. I'm like, because I'm all frazzled, and he's like, why are you grouchy? Like, just chill, just sit. And I'm like, I need to do all this before I can sit. But that's so funny. Yeah. And I also like picking up the night before so that I wake up in the morning. Like,
that is actually a really good, and
it's funny because he's always like, just do it tomorrow morning. I'm like, I'm not waking up to this mess tomorrow morning. I'd rather stay up and like clean this all up than do that. So
for sure,
that's so funny. But yeah, I feel like the Enneagram for sure has helped a lot. So I'm a 3, wing 4, but right now I'm struggling because I'm not relating to a lot of the things in the 3. Like a lot of the memes. Yeah. Like, do you follow Rude Ass Enneagram? They like post a bunch of memes.
I used to. I had to unfollow a bunch of those things because it just got too infiltrated into my, you know.
No, I could see that. I could see that. But I see like all the memes they put about 3s, and I'm like, I don't feel like I relate to that unless I'm just super healthy 3. Yeah. But I have a wing 4, and I feel that a lot. And then Zach is an 8, wing 7. So he's a challenger. I'm an achiever, even though I could care less about like achieving. I don't know. I'd actually be interested to talk to you about like my crisis that I'm feeling as a 3, because I'm like, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about
in our next episode
after the period episode, and our water episode.
Oh my gosh.
No, but yeah, it is cool like learning about each other, because like I'm very, very free spirited. Like I'm very like, I'll go when I feel like it. Like I like to have some type of plan. And like when it comes to tasks, like if it comes to like things I have to do that are work related, I do like to just like put them on my list and then check them off. Like the satisfaction of checking it off. But for the most part with like life in general, I'm like, I'll just like go when I feel like it. Like, and Zach is very like task oriented too. And so it's cool because on one hand we get a lot done as a couple and individually, but then on the other hand we both sometimes focus too much on the doing. And I feel like I've learned to mellow out a lot more like once I turned 30. I feel like that was when I changed a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like let my body rest and like let myself do its thing. Let myself do my thing. Where like Zach is the one, he's also very extroverted. Him and I are both extroverts, but I'm more introverted than he is. I like to recharge alone. I like to be alone. And I love that he likes to hang out with his friends on his own sometimes, because I'm like, please, like, he's always like, are you sure you want me to, like, go hang out with the guys? I feel bad leaving you alone. I'm like, don't, please, get out. I'm good. I'm just chilling in bed. Like,
you're already lighting candles.
Literally, I have all my candles lit. I'm just laying in
Here I'll go.
Go.
What's funny is that, like, I think especially during COVID, but like Nick, I realize this because I don't get like this, but he gets depressed when he's not around people. And it's not that I like to be around people. I do. Like, I love conversation, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, he'll start to like just get very melancholy and like kind of lose his light. And I'm like, do you want to go hang out with Val and Zach? He's like, yeah, what do you want to do with them? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, where it's like the 8th day in a row where I could stay in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm like, I've seen people via Instagram. Not okay. But I'm saying like he's definitely, he kind of starts to lose his light, which like kind of helped me see the whole like extrovert introvert thing. Cause they say it's how you recharge. Cause he was like, you know, after we got married, surprise, he was like, I swore you were an extrovert. And I was like,
he's like, you tricked me.
Yeah. He's like, what happened to the like fun outgoing Shantal before we got married? And I'm like, she's still here, but she needs to rest, homie. Like,
She needs to rest so she could be fun again.
I know.
No,
like,
I feel that.
Do you remember 100%. When I would go home? I was resting. Without you.
It's so, whenever the guys hang out, our husbands hang out a lot with a bunch of other of our friends' husbands.
Ick.
But the ick men hanging out. But whenever Zach comes back though, I always call him like, I promise I love him. We pick on each other a lot, but I always call him a spunky idiot because he's like a golden retriever.
They got like a little bop. Yes, they always get this like,
we did this and then
this like glow, and I'm like, you guys are so weird. Like, what did you guys do? Talk about memes and cars? Like,
oh my gosh.
Meanwhile, we're like fixing each other's worlds. Yeah, like you and I are like.
So this is what I'm processing right now.
And my period, I don't know, and we're all just like healing, and they're over there like,
just like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I love talking about their icks. Speaking of ick, hold on. I was at Daydream right before this, and our friends Cambria and James get there. James pulls out his laptop. Okay, we're at a coffee shop, and we're all working with just our laptops. He pulls out his laptop, then brings out a keyboard, and then brings out a mouse, and I'm looking at it. And he knew. He saw my face.
Be sitting next to you right now. Oh my god!
I was just staring at him, and he knew. He saw my face. He's like, "Did I just give you the ick?" I'm like, 100%. And he's like, "You know what gives me the ick is seeing people typing like this." I'm like, "No one types like this." Okay, it was just funny. I love telling.
If you have to bring a setup like that to a coffee shop.
Just stay home.
Just don't go. Just don't.
I love telling our guy friends that they give me the ick. That they know when they look at my face, they're like, I'm giving you the ick.
I love that you brought that up because I feel like it's made Nick. I can't say Nick now.
You can't say Nick without ick.
I said that one time to our friends and everybody died laughing. But I feel like he's like, I'm giving you the ick, huh? And I'm like, yes, Val made it acceptable to call him out on things that ick me out.
And it's so funny because whenever the guys try to say that, like, whenever they try to say we're giving them the ick, I'm like, women can't give the ick. Only men can give the ick to women. Men. Women can. We're too cute to give the ick. Yeah. We might do things that annoy you.
We don't make noises.
Yeah.
Just cause. Like, we don't just sit there and go. I didn't grow up with brothers, except for a very young brother, but I would look at him and be like, what is wrong? And he's like, what? He's like, are you getting mad at me for breathing? And I'm like, yes, you're being loud and disgusting. I was not.
Oh my God. I know. That's actually really funny. I didn't grow up with guys. I have like a bunch of boy cousins on my dad's side in Mexico, and they are wild. They're crazy. But as far as like immediate family, I have one sister. My mom only has sisters. My cousins on my mom's side are all girls. And we grew up together. So it's like, it's funny, like being.
They don't breathe out loud.
Yeah.
Like women, I don't know. Maybe we're just more like aware of that. But I guess my husband sometimes is just like not. And I'm like, dude,
shut up. No, it was funny because the first time like the ick became a term, it was like this, you know, in the How I Met Your Mother episode where like the glass is shattered. The glass was shattered for me. And I'm like, that is the term. Now I'm only going to pay attention to what an ick is and how I get the ick.
I need to download that soundbite on my phone so that I can just like pull it up whenever, because I have so many of those moments with our friends or just even with Nick, but like with our friends where I'm like, you blah, 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 you know what I mean?
And that's all you pay attention to.
I wish I could play it so people knew it was coming. Like, I figured this out about you.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah, when I told Zach about like what an ick is, I'm like learning this like new term and like I relate. He's like, well, girls give the ick too. Like you do things that like are annoying. He's like, you don't close the tops on things all the way, which is true. I don't know
if that's just a Val thing. That's not a girl thing.
But I was telling him, I was like, that's something that is annoying to you. It's not the same as an ick. An ick is literally like all attraction goes out the window and you're just like in disgust.
You thought you had a chance, buddy. Definitely don't now.
That's why women can give the ick. We're perfect little angels.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Okay, well, I appreciate you talking to me about culture. I feel like we need to like follow up on like 4 different episodes with like things that we talked about, because there was like so many good things in this episode. But
for sure.
Happy anniversary. It is your anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, we're celebrating it this weekend. Yes. Wait, tomorrow.
And it's number 6.
6 years married.
That's crazy.
So we're almost to 10 years.
Halfway, more than halfway there. Crazy.
Dude,
Oh
goes
my
by so
God.
fast.
It really does. I know. We did 10 years and I was like, what?
Yeah.
We just got married. Like, I'm still a teenager.
For real. You literally still are. Did you feel that way?
I
You guys
know.
are babies.
I know. But yeah, I've just been like so thankful for our friendship. Like, I cannot believe. Oh, we met on Instagram, kind of.
Yes,
That's
we
kind of a
did.
funny.
Yeah.
So our families have known each other for a long time, but we didn't actually like meet and become friends until we were moving out of our current townhome and you guys were touring it.
Yep.
That
and
someone
Val's
had
like,
sent
hey,
to
want to
you.
come over? And I'm like, you're gonna let a random stranger come over?
It happens all the time.
I think we stayed for a while.
We were chatting.
And
We were talking a
all
lot.
talked. And
Yeah.
like Nick vibed with Zach like
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
And we vibed right away. And I saw the little cholitas on your wall. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
I
And we
know.
started talking
We're
about
speaking
it.
Spanish. It was so cute. But yeah, that was in 2021. So it's been a few years of friendship.
Yeah.
Super grateful that we can share our icks, talk about water,
Can tell you more about
relate.
my water.
Yeah.
Don't trust Britta, guys. DM me if you
Don't
want to
trust
know
Britta.
more.
I'm dead.
Oh my gosh.
But this was fun. Thank you so
Yes.
much. And happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Bye, amigas.
Bye.